Hello, my name is Katie, and I wanted to make a video that I wish I could have seen when I was first buying my first pair. Hi, my name is Katie, and I wanted to make a video that I wish I had seen when I was first entering into the tango world, specifically about buying tango shoes. Along the way, I learned a lot of lessons, and there are things that I know now that I wished I had known when I first started buying shoes. All right, we're gonna dive right in. My first tip, of course, is to buy tango shoes. When I first bought my absolute first pair of tango shoes, they were from a ballroom salsa shoe company. And while I absolutely love my salsa shoes, their tango shoes were not the same. I think the first pair that I bought broke twice, and so I had to get them repaired, and then the heel was really wonky. So I didn't end up keeping them for very long. Once you found a tango brand or a real tango shoe, careful not to go too far in the opposite direction and go for that ultra tango shoe, which is tall and black. I went to Comme, which I definitely recommend if you have a chance, if you're ever in Argentina or any other places that they might have a store. It's a really beautiful experience, and you kind of feel like a princess, and they bring out the shoes and you get to try them on. But I think this happens to I hope this happens to more than just me, but you put on these tall shoes that make your feet look so elegant, and you're like, these are my shoe. But look, I bought these 3 months into dancing. Look how tall that heel is. I've never been able to dance with them. Even many years later, they did not fit my foot. They are completely uncomfortable. They look the bomb, but they just aren't practical for dancing. Definitely definitely get them for fun if you want to. But same thing. I also, you get that the red heel, and definitely bought a second pair of shoes just like that, and still don't usually dance in them. That brings me to my next step, which is always checking stability. You can test this by looking at how the shoe stands by itself. So if you're putting your shoe on a flat surface and you kind of wiggle the top of it, it shouldn't move back and forth a ton, okay? Especially as a new shoe. Of course, they will warp a little bit over time, but you want it to be nice and stable. So that's one of the things that you can check for in the store while you are shopping. The other thing, thinking about stability, is the size of the heel. One of the first tango shoes that I bought had this teeny tiny little heel. As you can see, the heel width has a lot to do with your stability. So if you compare it to a ballroom shoe where it's really thick and chunky here, a tango shoe can be a lot thinner, but there's a lot of shoes that have a nice middle ground, okay? Not too thick like a ballroom shoe, but not too needle thin, which is something that you definitely want to think about when you're just starting. You don't need to go for these needle style heels. Thinking about how the shoe fits. You definitely don't want to buy a shoe that's a little bit too tight, or you can already feel that might rub you on your toe or on the back of your heel, because you're gonna dance so many miles in them that if it's irritating or putting pressure, or you even suspect that it might be too tight, it probably will be. I know I've definitely bought a pair of shoes where I was thinking they'll stretch out and they'll adapt, and that is generally not true. Sometimes you get lucky and they're just a little bit loose, a little bit tight, and they loosen up over time. But if it's starting to rub or on your foot, it's definitely not a good sign, and that will probably cause you problems in the future. On the other hand, if it's loose at all, sometimes shoes do over time stretch out a little bit. So if the shoe is too loose, it's never going to tighten up. And you really want that, like, the shoe to really hold your foot, because if it's like there's any movement in there while you're stepping and trying to land and dancing and pivoting, you're not going to be happy with that, and you're not going to feel safe and stable, which is a huge part of making sure that you're communicating a confident dance. Like, you don't want to be like, to feel like unstable. Finding that Goldilocks amount, not too tight, not too loose. I know my favorite pair of shoes that I have now fit like a glove day one. Those have lasted me the longest. My next tip is assuming a fit based on size. I certainly notice that it's very different from brand to brand. So I know that in some brands I'm a size 37, others I'm a size 38. Not only the brand, but the style. I know that I have 2 shoes, same size, same brand, but they do fit slightly different. So if you do have the chance to try them on, that's always suggested. Once you've had like a couple shoes with the same brand, then you can kind of start to grow some confidence that if you buy a shoe in that size, it will probably fit. But I know it can be hard if you're trying to order shoes, that you can easily buy shoes that aren't going to fit. Tip number... My next tip, or my next lesson learned, was to make sure that you're trying to get a couple extras. When you buy a shoe, a lot of times the shoe salesperson will have like a leather hole puncher. And what you want to do is, if you are even close, like if you're in the last 1, 2, 3 dots when you're buckling your shoe, you want to ask them to add in some extra holes. I would say the places where your shoes usually loosen up is like with these like tiny straps up here. So you're gonna want to tighten those so you can get a little bit more stable around your ankle. And you might find if you're in the last 1, 2, or 3 holes, over time you're gonna run out of holes, and you're gonna have to kind of just search someone out. The other extra that you can ask for, or sometimes they will provide, is extra heel tips. As you can see, this heel tip is being rubbed away because of the way that I move my foot along the floor. I definitely have a tendency to wear these out kind of quickly, and you can get them replaced. I've heard like mixed luck. Sometimes you can get them replaced super cheap or even free, and other times they want to charge you like $10 or $15. The next thing that I want you to consider is like padding and the thickness of the padding right under the ball of your foot. When I first started dancing, I bought like very thin shoes like this that don't have a lot of padding. Like, they have a little bit of give, but not a ton. I danced in those for a really long time, and then I found shoes that both looked elegant but also had like a little bit more like padding in here, so they were just like that much more comfortable, and I could dance longer and not be worrying about like my feet being in pain. I've also tried brands that are a little bit too thick in the padding, and for me personally, it feels like I'm like dancing on pillows and I don't have like the grip with my toes to the floor. So you're just gonna have to find your sweet spot. My next tip is consider variety and your tango wardrobe. I know that I sometimes look at a pair of shoes and I absolutely love them, and then I actually think about what I could wear them with that's in my tango closet, and I don't necessarily have anything that I would wear them with.
Which of course isn't always a problem, because you can always add in.
There's always like innovative ways to style and color anything, but if you're just starting out, I would say go with like a nude or neutral color, because that will pair with everything. And then of course like a classic black heel, especially if you wear darker colors. My next tip is to really consider your foot. Each foot is different and unique, and you want to be thinking about what is going to really work for your foot. I know something that I learned along the way is that my feet do a lot better with shoes that have this like little T-strap, so this like little connector here between the top portion and the bottom portion. Other shoes where, for example, you have like very what I think elegant style like this, where you have these top straps and then the bottom portion here, I don't find very supportive for my foot because my foot is very flexible and my foot will actually just flex out of these shoes if the tip is caught like on a shoe or anything, and that's always kind of like
awkward and uncomfortable.
So thinking about your foot and your foot shape and your foot flexibility, the width of your foot, and some shoes that have a lot of straps like along the side or really tight along the side can be uncomfortable over time. So you just want to be thinking about what fits your foot. My next tip is a bit specific, and it's specific to sparkles and light colored material. One of the things that I noticed after time is that when I collect my feet are often like touching. So if you take like a shoe like this part is often going to hit your own shoe, or sometimes even like the leader's shoe. And then also this part of here of your heel is also going to more frequently collect, at least the way that I dance. So you're going to notice if you have like white or really light colored material here or sparkles here, that they're going to wear off. You can start to see that a little bit in this. This sparkle has definitely rubbed and just not last as long. My last tip, of course, is make sure that you love your shoes. Shoes can be expensive, and you want to find a pair that you love wearing, that you can use with multiple outfits, and that just make you feel like a tango goddess. And that's going to allow you to step onto the dance floor with a lot of confidence. Hopefully these lessons will be helpful for you, whether you're buying your first pair of shoes or adding on to your collection. I'd love to keep talking about this, so drop a comment about a lesson that you learned while buying tango shoes or questions that you have. I hope you have beautiful tango shoes in your future, as well as divine tandas. Take care.